The Whispering Pines. Jack Lawson had always been drawn to the wilderness. Growing up in a bustling city, he often dreamed of escaping to the serenity of nature. So, when he stumbled upon an old, tattered map of Whispering Pines Forest, he felt an inexplicable urge to explore it. The forest had a reputation for being eerie and haunted, but Jack dismissed such tales as mere superstition. With his backpack packed and his heart full of excitement, he set out for the adventure of a lifetime. The entrance to Whispering Pines was marked by an ancient, creaking wooden sign. The words Whispering Pines were barely legible, almost as if time itself had tried to erase them. Undeterred, Jack pressed on, his boots crunching the fallen leaves beneath him. The forest was dense, with towering pine trees that seemed to close in on him as he ventured deeper. The air was thick with the scent of pine and moss, and an unsettling silence hung in the air. Jack set up camp in a small clearing he found by a bubbling brook. As he pitched his tent, he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He glanced around but saw nothing unusual. The sun was beginning to set, casting long, sinister shadows across the forest floor. He built a fire and settled in for the night, telling himself that the unease he felt was just his imagination running wild. As darkness enveloped the forest, the whispers began. At first they were faint, almost imperceptible, like the rustling of leaves in the wind. But as the night wore on, they grew louder, more distinct. Jack strained to make out the words but couldn't. It was as if the forest itself was speaking to him in a language he couldn't understand. He tried to ignore it, convincing himself that it was just the wind playing tricks on him. Around midnight, Jack was jolted awake by a chilling scream. He shot up, his heart pounding in his chest. The fire had died down to embers, casting an eerie glow around the campsite. The scream echoed through the forest, filled with a terror that made Jack's blood run cold. He grabbed his flashlight and shone it into the darkness, but the beam of light revealed nothing but trees and shadows. Suddenly he heard footsteps approaching. They were slow and deliberate, crunching the leaves underfoot. Jack's flashlight flickered and went out, plunging him into darkness. Panic set in as the footsteps grew closer, stopping just outside his tent. He held his breath, straining to listen. The whispering returned, louder and more insistent. Jack felt a chill run down his spine as he realized the whispers were coming from right outside his tent. Gathering his courage, Jack unzipped the tent and stepped outside, flashlight in hand. The night was deathly silent, the air thick with tension. He swept the flashlight around the campsite, but there was no sign of anyone. The whispers had stopped, replaced by an oppressive silence. He felt a presence behind him and spun around, but saw nothing. Determined to get to the bottom of the mystery, Jack decided to explore the forest. He followed the brook, hoping it would lead him to some answers. As he walked, he noticed strange symbols carved into the trees, symbols that seemed to glow faintly in the dark. The further he went, the more frequent the symbols became, forming a path that led deeper into the forest. After what felt like hours, Jack stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. It was decrepit, with broken windows and a sagging roof. He felt a sense of dread wash over him as he approached the cabin, but curiosity drove him forward. The door creaked open, revealing a dark interior. He stepped inside, the floorboards groaning under his weight. The cabin was filled with old furniture covered in dust and cobwebs. Strange artifacts and more of those eerie symbols adorned the walls. In the center of the room was a large wooden table with a dusty, leather-bound book on it. Jack opened the book, its pages filled with cryptic writings and drawings of grotesque figures. As he turned the pages, the whispers returned, louder than ever. He looked up and saw shadows moving along the walls, shapes that seemed to dance and writhe in the dim light. Jack's flashlight flickered again, and he felt a cold hand on his shoulder. He spun around but saw no one. The whispers grew louder, almost deafening, and he realized they were coming from the book. He slammed it shut and backed away, his heart racing. The shadows on the walls began to take form, transforming into ghostly apparitions with hollow eyes and twisted features. In a panic, Jack fled the cabin, the whispers and shadows following him. He ran through the forest, the path he had taken seeming to twist and turn, leading him deeper into the darkness. The symbols on the trees glowed brighter, casting an eerie light on his path. He stumbled and fell, the whispers closing in around him. As he lay on the forest floor, exhausted and terrified, Jack saw a figure emerge from the shadows. It was a tall, gaunt man with piercing eyes and a malevolent grin. The figure extended a bony hand toward Jack, the whispers rising to a crescendo. Jack felt a cold, paralyzing fear grip him as the figure leaned in close, whispering something in his ear. The next morning, Jack's campsite was found by a group of hikers. His tent was intact, but there was no sign of Jack. The hikers reported hearing strange whispers and feeling an oppressive presence in the forest. Jack Lawson was never seen again, his disappearance adding to the chilling legend of Whispering Pines Forest. To this day, those who dare to venture into the forest claim to hear the whispers and see shadows moving among the trees, as if the forest itself is alive and guarding its dark secrets.